Tonight, aftershocks compound the damage following the world's 7th most powerful earthquake. Coastal areas in 20 countries evacuated after a tsunami warning for the entire Pacific Basin. And Australia's pledge to support Japanese quake victims. Hello, I'm Natasha Belling and welcome to our extended coverage of Japan's earthquake and tsunami disaster. There are fears tonight of a nuclear emergency, a day on from the 7th largest tremor in history. A cooling system failure has radiation levels at a key plant operating at 1,000 times the normal level. Away from the plant, the devastated city of Sendai is dealing with fresh aftershocks. One alone which topped 6.8 on the Richter scale, complicating the search for survivors. Now, here's the latest information as we know it right now. More than 400 people are confirmed dead, and that number could exceed 1,000. 215,000 people are in emergency shelters in eastern and northern Japan. 150 Australians are known to be in the quake zone. The Japanese government has committed 50,000 search and rescue personnel to the hardest hit areas. And as mentioned, the country is on high nuclear alert. 10's Ali Donaldson begins our extensive coverage.
When the seabed ruptured, it unleashed a monster killer which roared ashore at 800 kilometres an hour. The biggest tsunami reached 10 metres high, engulfing the city of Sendai on Japan's northeast coast. Even giants of the sea were no match for the sea itself. Its force pummeled everything in its path. An entire coastal community was turned to rubble in seconds. Despite being choked with debris, cars, boats, even burning homes, the waters did not stop, reaching 10 kilometres inland. And somewhere in all of this, there were people fighting for survival. At most, they had 10 minutes to flee. Those on low-lying farmland stood little chance. At the top of the picture, a few vehicles were caught driving along a highway trying to outrun the killer wave. Some were swept away. A few hundred metres down the road, truck drivers stopped on the last remaining high ground. But soon they too were facing a life and death situation until an embankment beneath them collapsed and the rising waters took a different path. This is the moment the quake hit in supermarkets, in office buildings, on the street, in airports, and in homes.
Oh my God, the building's gonna fall.
It opened the doors to hell's furnace. Entire cities burned unchecked throughout the night. The fire consuming the Cosmo oil refinery north of Tokyo was deemed too dangerous to fight, and within hours the plant's storage tanks blew. By morning, concerns of an even greater catastrophe focused on the country's nuclear power plants. Although shut down, at one, the emergency diesel generators used to cool its nuclear reactors were inoperable. A 10-kilometre evacuation radius has been ordered.
The containment can fail and you might have a release on the order of the Chernobyl accident.
In some areas, there appears little left to destroy. Yet somehow, amid all this devastation, a lucky few were today plucked to safety. Many more still wait. There's no easy escape at Sendai Airport, where hundreds remain trapped on the terminal roof. This was the moment it went under. A day on and nothing is where it should be. Only the search for life prevails in a post-apocalyptic environment where there's still hope the human spirit can cling on. Ali Donaldson, 10 News.
Like all earthquakes, this one was caused by giant tectonic plates in the Earth's crust crashing together with massive force. And when it happens underwater, the shock wave creates a powerful tsunami. And this one was enormous.
The sea in turmoil, and below the ocean, the 7th biggest earthquake of any time, anywhere in the world. The power of the quake is mind-boggling, 8,000 times as powerful as the shock that tumbled buildings in New Zealand only 2 weeks ago. But then Japan is the earthquake capital of the world. On this map, every dot is an earthquake that's happened since 1900, and these are only the big ones. So Japan is prepared.
This was a big earthquake. How devastating it will turn out to be, we'll have to wait to find out. I think the earthquake itself didn't do too much direct damage. Buildings weren't collapsing in Tokyo or even in Sendai like they were in Christchurch. The earthquake was offshore and caused a tsunami. Although the ground shook, the buildings in Japan were very well designed, didn't fall down. We were seeing some fires started, reports of a damaged cooling system in a nuclear power station, but quite small-scale damage. It was the tsunami that this quake will be remembered for.
So why is Japan so prone to earthquakes? Because it sits on a seismic hotspot where 2 of the tectonic plates in the Earth's crust are crashing together. The massive Pacific plate is slowly moving towards Japan and being pushed under the plates that make up the islands. But it's not a smooth movement. The plates stick, pressure builds up and is then suddenly released. That's an earthquake.
What has happened is one plate has gone under another and buckled it down. It has then sprung back, and that has lifted the whole ocean up above it over a huge area. And then the wave has been created by that.
They were prepared for the tsunami too. This map shows measuring stations around the Pacific, over 1,000 of them, and they were flashing warnings within seconds of the quake. The energy of the quake is being carried by the tsunami across the whole Pacific. Dark red here shows waves about 4 feet high. That's in open waters, and it's a real danger to low-lying islands like the Carterets. Even before this tsunami, people there have been evacuated because rising sea levels caused by global warming have threatened their livelihood and their very existence. The tsunami has definitely reached these and many other remote Pacific islands, but we don't know yet what damage it's caused. Lawrence McGinty, 10 News.
And still to come, fears a nuclear power plant could go into meltdown. And how the might of the water engulfed entire towns. And here's what's coming up in the evening news at 6.
Thanks, Natasha. Coming up in Melbourne's 10 Evening News, as Japan counts the cost of its massive 8.9 magnitude earthquake and monster tsunami, Melbourne offers its assistance.
I think that's one of the things that makes us part of a global village. When people are in trouble, we help.
A show of hot air, anti and pro-carbon tax rallies on the march in Victoria, and leaving all his troubles behind. Brendan Favola flies off overseas. Details coming up at 6.
Welcome back. You're with a special edition of 10 News with our continuing coverage of the unfolding disaster with the earthquake and tsunami in Japan. And now joining us from our Canberra studios is Foreign Minister Kevin Rudd. Mr Rudd, thanks so much for your time on a very busy day. I understand...
It's a good opportunity to speak to people who and their families who are worried about what's going on in Japan, and just to give some more factual information if I can. Excellent.
Now, I understand you've just got off the phone with the ambassador in Tokyo. What did he have to say? What's the latest information there?
Well, in terms of the number of Australians that we're looking at, in the earthquake and tsunami affected areas, we at this stage have a total number of 160 registered Australians. Bear in mind we have about 2,000 plus registered Australians within Japan, and that's out of a suspected 11,000 plus Australians who actually in the country, most of whom have not registered with the Australian Embassy. We're focusing on the 160. We're seeking to establish contact with each of them, and that is the best way we have to provide assurance back to Australian families that their loved ones are okay.
Mr Rudd, we're seeing some of the devastating and very, very confronting images of the tsunami on the screen right now. What fears do you hold 160 Australians who are in the worst hit areas of Japan.
Look, our experience of natural disasters before, including most recently in Christchurch, is that the situation genuinely fluctuates in terms of our real knowledge of where people are in particular locations on the ground. Let me give you some good news about the city of Sendai. We heard earlier today from Lend-Lease, the Australian company, which I understand has an office in Sendai. We finally got through to them, or they got through to the embassy in Tokyo to confirm that they were all okay. So that is good news. What we are concerned about is that broader stretch between Sendai and the coast and to the north and south of there as well. We're still seeking to send a team of consular officials into that prefecture, but it's virtually impossible to get there at present. What we have done, however, to assist with the departure of Australians from Narita Airport is we've dispatched a team of consular officials from the embassy to Narita. Normally that's a drive of about 3/4 of an hour. Our team will be on the road now for 4.5 hours. They expect they're about an hour and a half off getting there. But their job is to be there when the night flights from Tokyo start bringing people back to Australia, because we expect there may be a fair bit of a throng at the airport, and we'll be there to try and provide the support necessary for Australians at Narita Airport tonight.
Taking a quick look now at the weather details around the nation for tomorrow. Showers for Brisbane, a top of 28 degrees. Late shower expected for Sydney, showers for Canberra, possible showers for Melbourne with a top of 29. Rain for Adelaide and some sunshine expected for Perth. And just before we go tonight, a quick recap of Japan's worsening earthquake and tsunami disaster. And the government has just declared a nuclear emergency, with a plant 250 k's northeast of Tokyo severely overheating as a result of the 8.9 magnitude earthquake. 1,613 people are now confirmed dead. 215,000 people are in emergency shelters, and 150 Australians are known to be in the earthquake-devastated zone. And that brings you up to date. We'll have the latest developments on the tragedy unfolding in Japan next in 10's Evening News. But for now, I'm Natasha Belling. Thanks for your company. Good night.
Has a brand new bulletin, 6:30 weeknights.
10 Evening News at 6:30 just makes sense. 10 well and truly has it covered.